Hello, my name's Helen. I'm from the Cut Flower Patch. The Cut Flower Patch is a company that supplies boxes of seeds monthly boxes of seeds to people who are interested in growing cut flower gardens, and that comes with lots of advice and support to help you grow successfully. If that's something you're interested in, you can head over to the Cut Flower Patch website. That's the cutflowerpatch.co.uk. But in this instance, we've created a partnership with BookSpace, the company that provides libraries to schools. But as well as designing fantastic libraries, they also are very interested in promoting reading. So we've jointly worked together on a free resource for primary schools about how to create a reading garden, and you can download that free of charge from the BookSpace website. But hopefully if you're watching this, you're one of the lucky winners of the 10 Cut Flower Patch seed boxes we're giving away. So today I'm going to take you through how to sow and nurture those seeds. So hopefully you'll get lots of beautiful flowers in your school this summer. So I'll get on with that. So firstly, I'll take you through the things you need to sow your seeds. You obviously need the 5 packets of seeds that came in your box. You'll also need the 5 labels that came in your box too. It's very easy to forget to label your seeds and then you forget what they are. So I always put the name of the flower on there along with the date to remind me when I actually sowed them. I have actually put slightly larger labels in these boxes than I normally do. So hopefully they're big enough for the children to be able to write on these. You're then going to need some compost. I use a good quality multi-purpose peat-free compost. Peat-free is important because it's a more sustainable form of compost. So it is better if you can get hold of that. You could also use seed compost, but I find just a good multi-purpose compost is absolutely fine. You're also going to need some 9cm pots, 9cm being the diameter of the pot. These are really common size. Lots of plants from garden centres come in this size, so hopefully you'll be able to find some and reuse them. It's always worth giving them a good wash with some detergent and rinsing them just in case there's any sort of fungal spores still remaining in the pot. On the Cut Flower Patch website, on the blog, on the blog section, there is something about how to make your own pots if you want to go that route. So you can use yoghurt pots and old containers that tomatoes and strawberries come in. Just the most important thing to remember is to put some drainage holes in the bottom, otherwise they'll get waterlogged. So the 3 of our seeds are going to go into 9cm pots, and then the other 2 will go into a seed tray. So these are the seed trays that I use. This is a 24 cell tray. You could use a 40 cell tray if you wanted to. Again, these aren't essential. You could use something else to sow them in, but I do find certain seeds, like the ZINNIA that we're going to sow today, do better in a tray with cells because they don't like root disturbance. You'll also need something to cover the tray with while the seeds germinate. The seed trays I use do come with these plastic covers, but you can easily use something like a shower cap or a plastic bag if your trays don't have a cover like this. And then you'll need something to water your seeds with. I use just an adapted water bottle. This is a little thing I think came from Amazon, and it's a nice gentle way of watering the seeds. It's very easy to dislodge seeds, so if you use a hose or a particularly big watering can, you need to be quite careful with that. But it's just using something that means you don't drown the seeds, you just actually moisten them. So essentially, oh actually no, there's one more thing. We do need something to put a hole in the compost with. I have a dibber, but equally a pen or pencil will do perfectly well. So that's what we need. So I'll get on with sowing the seeds, and we'll start with our sweet pea. So when I've selected these seeds for the school seed box, I've tried to choose seeds that are relatively easy to sow and germinate, and also ones that have a lot of variety in terms of form and colour. So the first one I'm going to sow is the sweet pea. So what I've done, I've filled some 9cm pots, 2/3 full of compost. We're then going to water those, give them a good water. And then once they're nice and damp, fill those up with some dry compost. Today I'm just sowing 3 seeds, but you might want to sow more. There's in fact 25 sweet peas in your pack. When I talk to cut flower patch growers, I normally say don't sow too many, because often a common mistake is to sow more than you need and then you're not quite sure what to do with them all. But obviously in a school setting you might want to sow a few more so children could take them home, or you could give them to sell them at a school fair, something like that. Then we need to put a hole in the compost about 1.5 centimetres deep. I'm using my dipper, but you could use a pen or pencil if you don't have one. And then these seeds are quite easy to handle. So we just need to pop 1 seed in each of the holes and then cover those over with compost. Then don't forget your label, nice big label as I say. We then need to cover these with newspaper. And normally I say to cut flower patch growers, pop them on the kitchen windowsill. But you really just need to put them somewhere where there's some light and where it's warm. And then you need to keep an eye on those and keep checking them. And as soon as the first signs of a seedling come through, you need to take the newspaper off and then move them outside. Now if it's warm, if you can find a warm, shelter, bright spot, at this time of year they're probably okay just left outside, but ideally they should go into some sort of greenhouse, polytunnel, cold frame. I have put, again there is something on the Cut Flower Patch blog about greenhouse alternatives, and you can very cheaply buy like a mini plastic greenhouse if you want to do that. Your seeds probably will do better if you can put them in something like that. So I say keep an eye on them. As soon as you see the first seedlings come through, take the newspaper off and pop them somewhere light and warm, and then they will continue to germinate from there. Okay, so that's the sweet pea. I'll now go on to the sunflowers. So sunflowers, they're always popular, very popular to grow with children because they do grow very quickly. I've chosen a variety called Valentine, which doesn't grow too tall. It grows to about 1.5 meters tall, so it's fairly easy to look after. Also, the nice thing about Valentine is that you get more than 1 flower per stem. A lot of sunflower varieties, you just have one flower per stem. So again, they're nice, decent sized seeds. And what I've done this time, again, 9 centimetre pots, but this time I've pretty much filled them with compost. And what we need to do is again put about a 1.5 centimetre hole into the compost, and then drop a seed into each of these. In the reading gardening resource that we've done, we've put in an idea for creating sort of like a screen with sunflowers, so it's a really nice thing to put into a reading garden. It's a nice way to create a shaded area, quite a secluded area for reading. So once you've got the sunflowers in the holes, cover that over. Give them a water, don't overwater them, just make them nice and moist. And then again, pop your label in. Now we don't need to cover those over, but I would recommend putting them inside somewhere, again, somewhere quite warm and light. And as soon as the seedlings start to appear, which will be in a few days probably, again, take them outside, pop them somewhere warm, light and sheltered, or ideally into a polytunnel or plastic greenhouse, something like that. Next we'll go on to sowing the zinnia and the cornflower. So this time I'm using my 24 cell tray. I'm going to sow half of it with cornflower and half with zinnia, but you have enough seeds to do a whole tray of each, or more than 1 tray of each if that's what you want to do. I filled this with the multi-purpose compost again, but in this instance I've actually sieved the compost, because you want to get rid of any lumps and bumps in there, because the seeds are very small and you don't want bark and things like that getting in the way of compost, getting in the way of them germinating. So if you haven't got a sieve, then just rub it through your fingers just to get rid of any particularly big bits that might be in there. You then want to depress the compost slightly to get rid of any sort of air bubbles. Again, you want to make sure the seeds are making contact with the compost. You don't want them getting caught in an air bubble. That'll make it more difficult for them to germinate. Okay, so with firstly with the zinnia, I'm going to put one zinnia seed in each cell, like this, and just put one in the middle of the cell. Again, they're not too small to handle. I've tried to pick seeds that aren't too tricky to handle. Some of them are so small, they're really fiddly, and I think the children might find that quite difficult. Now, zinnia doesn't like root disturbance. This is probably the most tricky seed to sow, or to germinate, should I say, out of all the seeds that are in your box. And zinnia doesn't like root disturbance. That's why it's better sown in a cell tray like this, so it's not disturbed. I'm then going to cover that lightly with some compost. Zinnia is a lovely flower. This is a beautiful colour. It's like a coral colour, which apparently is really fashionable at the moment. So when you've covered that over, actually I won't water that yet, I'll water it once I've put the cornflower in. The same process really applies to the cornflower too. We're going to put one of those, one or two actually, in each cell. And then there's loads of these in your pack, so you probably won't want to sow them all. You can always save some and sow them again next year if you wish, or take them home and sow them. So if we put a couple of those in each cell. Cornflowers are really a typical English cottage garden flower. I absolutely love them. And they're blue, they're a really lovely shade of blue. And they're very easy to grow. The only thing is the slugs do like them, and you have to be a bit careful that the slugs don't get hold of them. So again, I'm going to cover that with a light covering of compost. And when we've done that, I will water it gently. This is where you have to be careful you don't water too vigorously, because that will dislodge the seeds. Also, another common mistake is to overwater, and then everything gets waterlogged and the seeds won't germinate, they'll just disintegrate. So that's something to be mindful of as well. Just be a little bit careful. Don't forget your labels. And the zinnia there. And again, we need to cover this. Suddenly realise these labels aren't so good for covering up. I'm going to have to be a bit clever with those. So cover that with a cover. Pop it somewhere warm and light again. And again, as soon as you see the seeds start to germinate and come through, even if it's only one or two seeds, take the cover off and pop them somewhere warm and light outside. I say ideally in a polytunnel or greenhouse or zippy greenhouse, something like that. So that's the cornflower and zinnia. And then finally we're going to go on to sow the BRIZA MAXIMA, which is a grass. So I've included a grass in the box just to give you something a little bit different. This is a really beautiful grass. It's quite ornamental, and it has lovely little flower droplets coming off the stems. Very easy to grow. And again, I've tried to choose seeds that are quite different as well. So if you look at these seeds, they don't even look like seeds, they just look like dry husks, but I can assure you they are seeds. This is some BRIZA MAXIMA actually I sowed about 6 weeks ago now, and that's how it looks. So if you put around just a ½ centimetre hole in here in the 9 centimetre pot, so I filled 9 centimetre pots with compost. I've put a couple of these actually in each pot. Again, sow as many as you like. There's a lot of these in your kit. It might be something you want at home as well. It's a really nice grass to put in your borders of your garden.
There we go. I'll pop the others back in the packet so I can use those later. Cover those over and give them a bit of a water. These won't germinate as quickly as the other seeds that we've sown today, so be patient with them. They will come through, but they're just a little bit slower growing. Pop your label in, and then again, put those inside somewhere warm and bright, and as soon as they start to germinate, bring them outside. You probably won't need to put these in a greenhouse or polytunnel. They're actually fairly hardy. They should be absolutely fine. So that's the 5 seeds that we've sown. I'm really interested to see how you get on with these. So please share photographs with us, either via Instagram or Facebook, or email them to Chris at BookSpace. We'd love to share those on our social media too. Okay, so I hope you found that helpful, and I hope you and the children enjoy sowing and growing your cut flower patch seeds.